What's up? What's up? What's up? What's going on, everyone? We have a busy week this week. A couple things we're going to cover from last week. We're going to touch on the Tyson and Jake Paul fight. Then we're going to hop over to UFC 309, return of Stipe and the return of Jon Jones. Last week, we're very transparent. We didn't have the greatest week. I kept the bet pack very minimal. I said that I did not like anything. I didn't see really any value on the card. Pretty much said that there was going to be all the favorites were going to win. I said like they were all slated to win. However, the one dog that did come out was Bolanos, and we were on him. We went 11-1 on the card, so we actually did really good from a picking perspective. But from a props end of it, we just right side, wrong prop. You know, so you get those weeks. But whatever, we bounce back this week. We jump in with first, I just want to touch on the Tyson fight. I was actually going to do a whole podcast on the Tyson and Jake Paul fight, but after doing a lot of research and a lot of film work and stuff, I'm keeping that behind my paywall. I have a lot to say about that. I'm going to shoot about an hour and a half podcast on just a historical breakdown of Tyson's career, of where Jake Paul came from, the people he's training with, what makes this interesting, what doesn't make it interesting, ultimately my thoughts on the fight, whatever wagers I have. So if you guys want like really full detailed breakdown on that fight, and not only that, guys, like I know you're looking at that fight. I know you're looking at that fight as the pinnacle to that card. That fight is not the best fight on that card. I mean, there is some very good boxing fights on that card. Katie Taylor Serrano too. Like there's some really good fights on that card, and I'm going to be breaking those down on the podcast for my subs. So if you are a sub, you're going to have a treat because I'm going to do about an hour and a half podcast just on that alone, breaking down that card, breaking down some wagers that I've seen, and ultimately giving you my lean on that. What I will say about that fight is this. You know, we've come to a point in the world where social media engagement is obviously plentiful with everything. I mean, look what happened with the election when you have the fake news coming out, CNN, MSNBC. Now everybody's getting fired from CNN. Who's getting let go? What ratings are down? Because the people now can do their research. The people now can jump on social media. They can kind of cross-examine things. They can fact-check things. They can do all these different things. The bad thing about social media is you can make things look much prettier than they seem. You can make women look much prettier than they seem from social media. How many times have you guys been on dating sites or been on Instagram and seen women, these models, and then you meet them in person or something, they look like fucking Who Did It and Ran. You know, so same thing with men. You know, so they could do that with sports, with editing, with little these clips that you want to see that look good, that look crisp, that look sharp. But you don't see the other 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours of that training regimen. You only see this small sample size of what's going on. And that's on both sides. That's on the Jake Paul side, and that's on the Mike Tyson side. I had a little bit of an eye awakening when I was watching full clips of these guys training. Actual full, unedited. I was able to see some of them. And it kind of started really shifting my gears in certain directions. And listen, I don't want to ever see a 58-year-old guy in there that's past his prime. You know what I mean? Way past his prime. But what makes this fight interesting and why people I think are interested in it is because, first of all, it can't sell tickets. If you look online, there's multitude of tickets left. This thing just can't sell tickets. The casuals see the highlights of Mike Tyson. The casuals see the highlights of Tyson in his reign, crazy Mike Tyson, this and that. And then the boxing aficionados like myself, the people who know boxing, who understand boxing, we don't really have that much interest in seeing him come back. The reason why both groups, one that really wants to see it and the other group really doesn't want to see it, the reason why we're going to watch it is because you got a guy where at his pinnacle, Jake Paul couldn't shine this guy's shoes, okay? So that brings his level down to here, okay? And then now you got him at 58, and you got a guy who's 27 who brings him up a little bit now, who's been training, who's got the money behind him to get the proper training, to get the proper science behind them and stuff like that. So that makes the playing field a little bit more even. So that's where the interest draws. You know what I mean? But ultimately, I think there's a sacrificial lamb here, and there's not. And I'm going to discuss all that on my pod. I'm going to go through every possible thing you can imagine on this fight. So if you do want to see that, and you do want my leans, and you do want some possible plays on it, and you want me to keep you away from the fake news, and you want me to keep you away from, you know, these touts that have they don't watch boxing all year, and then all of a sudden they come in and they're going to give you their analysis. If you want true analysis on this fight, you're getting UFC 309. You're getting the full card for the Jake Paul fight, and you're getting NFL for one price. So, I mean, despite what you think, like, you could come in and read my stuff, and the article already for 309 is up. It's huge. It's 11 pages long for UFC 309. 11 pages long. I have one fight to go, but it's actually 11 pages long. I just posted on the site. So you could read my stuff, and you can agree and not agree. But what it's going to do, it's actually going to bring you behind the curtain a little bit to maybe help you with your assessment. I'm not here to change your mind. I'm not here to tell you who to pick. I'm here to give you the facts and keep you away from, like, the fake news, the fake touts, and stuff like that. So the MadLabMMA.com, if you're interested in that, like I said, it's all one price this week. You go in, you get it. Do what you want to do from a DFS standpoint. We do live streams. We're going to have podcasts up. We got the private Discord, everything you need. So come check us out over there, the MadLabMMA.com. Okay, so this card is interesting. This is another card where, you know, I could discuss this a little more in depth now with the Stipe and Jones fight. It's no secret that we know who both of these guys are. We know that Jon Jones at one time was considered, still is considered, one of the pound-for-pound greats. And we know that Stipe is considered the best heavyweight of all time. Now, I tend to disagree on both sides. Okay, I think Stipe Miocic is probably the best heavyweight in the UFC of all time, but not the best fighter of all time heavyweight. I mean, you would have to go through a list of guys like Fedor Emelianenko. I mean, Fedor right there. I mean, how do you put him over Fedor? You know, but I do think for the UFC, for their branch of mixed martial arts, yes, Stipe is. If you look at his resume, it's hard to deny that. Jon Jones, on the other hand, now when you talk about the pound-for-pound best of all time, now you're talking about the entire spectrum of MMA. And I don't subscribe to that. I'm sorry, I don't. But if you look at his resume and you look at the things that he's done, listen, to be a champion, I know people say, well, you know, to be a champion, you have to, you know, live a certain lifestyle, and you have to be a good you have to be good for the kids and be a good you know, in certain aspects of your life outside of the cage. I get that, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about inside the cage. That's where it matters, right? Okay. Jon Jones has some fights on his resume that he should have lost. He should have lost. So now my question to you is that if the Gus fight went Gus's way, if the judges gave it to Gus, the Reyes fight, you can't even convince me. You can't turn a table on me. You can't tell me. You can tell me whatever you want to tell me. He did not win that fight against Reyes. Sorry, but he didn't. I don't think he won it. The media don't think he won it. Dana White's kids don't think he won it. The fans don't think he won it. Verdict didn't think he won it. Nobody thought he won it. That MMA decisions shit, when all the press people come out, didn't think he won it. Nobody thought he won that fight, but he won. But the judges gave him the fight. Okay. Then there's something to be said about the Santos fight, where it was a boring fight. That was an extremely boring fight, low volume, cautious, safe fight by Jon Jones. Now, when you look at the optics of that, and you see Jon Jones was the one that was kind of pushing ahead, but what was he really doing? He was landing like kicks. They were range kicks. They were finders to kind of keep Santos honest. Santos was kind of the one charging the pocket, throwing the heavier leather, at least trying to make something happen, trying to engage when they did engage, where Jones was outreaching his hand like he always does, keeping him at range, throwing front kicks, keeping him at range. Really didn't do anything. So that pressure forward doesn't really mean anything to me. Like, what does that really mean to me? Okay, you're the one walking him down. Okay, but he's the one firing more leather. He's the one at least trying to make something happen, where you're just kind of pawing at him and pawing at him. So that's a fight too, where a lot of people do believe that Santos won that fight. But so let's just say out of those three fights, we're not going to say all three of them. Let's say two of those three fights went the way they possibly one of them definitely should have went the other way, and one of those two went the other way because you can make a serious argument from it. Would you still be saying that he's the pound-for-pound greatest fighter in MMA? No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't. So you could kind of say that he's kind of company produced because you had the judges that helped him out with a couple fights that maybe he shouldn't have won. One of them he definitely shouldn't have won. Out of the two of them, one of them was a split decision. The other one went his way when a lot of people thought Gus won that fight. You can make an argument. I'm not saying either way was a robbery. I'm saying that you could really have literally went either way in the Gus fight, completely went either way with the Santos fight, which was a split decision, and there's no way that Jon Jones won the Reyes fight. So even if you just take that away and you just you give him the Reyes loss, like, is he still considered the greatest pound for pound fighter of all time? I mean, his resume is blemished. So, I don't subscribe to either side, what they say. There's a lot of media hype behind it to build the brand of the UFC. I think the UFC is the greatest brand for mixed martial arts, absolutely. But I don't subscribe to Jon Jones being the greatest pound for pound fighter of all time, and I don't consider Stipe to be the best heavyweight of all time in all of MMA. When you look at this fight should have happened years ago. Like, this fight shouldn't happen now. You got a 42-year-old Stipe who's kind of, been through it. You got Jon Jones who is, is he fighting at a high level? We don't even know. I mean, do you consider the Ciryl Gane fight like a real a good sample of what we can expect to see from him? I can't say yes. I can't say no. In my eyes, Ciryl Gane choked. He literally got starstruck in there, and he literally choked. He buckled up. He went down. Jon Jones didn't even break his sweat. We didn't even get to see anything. So we really have no idea how this guy looks, coming in at heavyweight against a natural heavyweight like Stipe, somebody who's not going to shy away, somebody who's going to, bring slick boxing, someone who's got good credentialed wrestling. Like, we have no idea. So on either side, you got Stipe we haven't seen in years. You have Jon Jones we haven't seen in years. Technically, right? We've seen Jon Jones, but did we really see Jon Jones? Jon Jones could have fought another fight that night. So when you look at this overall, the thing that makes me nervous for Jon Jones is Stipe's an actual heavyweight. He's an actual heavyweight. This guy's going to come into the cage 250, 255. Jon Jones is kind of a blown-up heavyweight. He's had the time now to at least gradually put it on better, put more size on. But if you really look at his body frame, he's really not a true heavyweight. If you look at his legs, if you look at his calves, like, he's a natural light heavy. Like, that's where he belongs. He's a blown-up heavyweight anyway, which you want to do it. And I'm sure he kind of struggles a little bit probably to maintain a heavy stature. He may say he's super comfortable at heavyweight. I doubt it. I think he's much more comfortable at light heavyweight. But the dude is a freak in nature. That I'm not going to tell you. The guy can go out and blow lines and do rails and be on a bender for 3 days and beat Daniel Cormier. Like, the guy is a freak. You kind of got to wonder, like, what if he really did live a lifestyle like Stipe, or he lived a lifestyle like Daniel Cormier? How good could Jon Jones have really been? You know what I mean? But then you wonder, maybe that's why he was so good, because he lived so unchained and lived off his shelf and did blow before fights and partied his fucking face off. Maybe that's what made him good. I know plenty. Look at Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence Taylor, one of the best linebackers ever. The guy would do blow at halftime. So certain people are wired certain ways to do certain things. Personally, me, I never did drugs, never tried cocaine, never did none of that. I especially because when I was growing up, I was so athletic minded that I never wanted to get caught up in that. I just wanted to play sports. I wanted to box. I wanted to play, do my thing, be as healthy as I can. So I lived a very healthy, conscious lifestyle. Even with my drinking when I was in college, like, would I go out and party? Yeah, I would go out and have a good time and have some drinks. But I never got to a point where I was belligerent or I didn't know where I was or anything like that. Like, I tried to live a very healthy athletic lifestyle because I didn't want it to take away from my performances. Where a guy like Jon Jones, maybe he performs better that way. Maybe he's just wired to perform better that way. When it comes to resonating with people, it's hard to imagine that Stipe doesn't resonate with people more. This is a guy who's got a full-time job as a fireman. He's a family guy. He's got kids. He's a good guy. You never hear nothing bad going on with him. So you kind of got the rebel yell on one side, and you got the good old American boy, country boy on the other side. in their primes, if this was 5 years ago, I would pick Stipe in this fight. If this was 5 years ago and they were meeting at heavyweight, I'd probably pick. If Stipe was 5 years younger, or if they were the same age, that's what I'm going to say. Because you take 5 years off of Jones, now he's 5 years younger too. So you got Jon Jones here at 30, 36, 37. You got him at 42, going on 43. You shave 5 years off Stipe and you put him in this fight now. Now they're like kind of the same age. I think I take Stipe in this fight. I take the natural heavyweight in this fight. I do think Stipe is live. I do think that, we haven't seen Jones really tested by a true heavyweight. He doesn't have a ton of volume. Does he have power? Yes. Is he tricky? Yes. But he hasn't met somebody like Stipe who's going to be able to really match him in certain elements of his game. I would say Jon Jones is the better wrestler, but by how much? I would say Miocic is the cleaner boxer, but I think Jon Jones has the slicker movements, the spinning elbows, and stuff like that. So it honestly is an interesting matchup to me. I think it's a lot closer than people think. I would not be shocked in any way, shape, or form if Stipe wins this fight. I really, really wouldn't. There's something to be said about maybe if Jon Jones is living a cleaner lifestyle and it's just not who he is. And maybe that takes away from his performance. He's so high-strung. He's so used to being high and high-strung and like rebellious that maybe this calmer lifestyle, if he is living it, is going to take away from his mindset and his performance. You really don't know. Like there's 1,000 questions looming around this fight. Ultimately, though, I think the smart pick is Jon Jones. Like if you're going to pick a side without money involved, without Vegas lines, or if you just got to say I got to make a pick, I think that the safer pick is Jon Jones. But I'm telling you right now, like I am not going to be surprised if Stipe wins this fight. I honestly think this is a mystery fight. There's a question mark looming around this fight for both guys. Both of these guys, you're going to learn a lot about both of these guys in this fight, where they are today, where they are mentally, where they are physically, how much speed they have left, how much power they have left, what their mind wants to do, and if their body can react to it. So I think you're going to learn a lot, and I have no doubt in my mind that Stipe is live in this fight. But I think just from a picking perspective, like just the smart pick, I think it's Jones. However, from now, if you're looking at the Vegas side of it, I think Stipe is worth a stab, at those odds. Stipe is extremely disrespectful odds. So I think he might be worth a little stab. I wouldn't lay nothing on Jon Jones at that price. Nothing, zero. I wouldn't even lay money on Jon Jones at 2-1 odds. You know what I mean? Like I think this is a closer fight than people think. I don't think Jones is going to run over Stipe, unless he's completely washed. Like at 42 years old, this guy's chin is just gone. His timing is gone. Everything is gone. I think it could be a very competitive fight. So I'm going to pick Jones, but like I said, Stipe to me is the value side. Next fight, you got Chucky Olives and you got Michael Chandler. This fight I feel like needed to happen, right? So on one side, these guys fought once before. I know a lot of people gave Michael Chandler a lot of crap when he came in from Bellator. Like, what are you coming in from Bellator for? You think you can hang with us? The guy's been great. I mean, the guy's been great. Yes, he's been losing fight. Yes, he lost 3 of his last 4 at the high-level competition. But the guy's getting fight of the night bonuses like Justin Gaethje anytime he comes into the cage. The guy brings it. He throws caution to the wind, and he creates chaos in there. Extremely high-level wrestling from, I think, from Missouri. All-American, D1, extremely good power. The guy's very well-rounded. His chin is a little up in the air, you know what I mean, at certain times. I say the same thing about Chucky Olives. But when they fought the first time, he needed around 5 more seconds in that round. 5 seconds separated him from winning the belt. And it's basically because Chucky Olives does the same thing he always does. He ends up getting clipped in the first round. He ends up getting hurt in the first round. And the reason why he survives these kind of exchanges is because everybody's afraid to jump into his guard. If you knock him down, if you clip him on the chin and he goes down, who wants to jump in this guy's guard? I don't. You don't. The only one that had the balls to do is Chandler, because Chandler knows wrestling. Chandler knows weight distribution. He knows top control. So he's not as cautious as somebody like me who's a pure striker. I'm not jumping in that dude's fucking guard. I'm calling him up to get him back up. But now when you call him up to get back up, you're giving him time to recover. You're giving his legs time to recover. And so he will recover. And if so technically sometimes when you fight Charles Oliveira, if you're a striker, you have to beat him once or twice in that fight. Instead of just knocking him down and then getting on top of him and finish him, you got to knock him down. You got to get him up. You beat him. You could have beat him once, but you didn't want to jump into his guard. So there's a very tricky game with Chucky Olives that sometimes you have to play in order to beat him. And what happened was he needed 5 more seconds. 5 more seconds separated Chandler from being a champion. He went back to his corner. He was extremely overconfident. He thought it was 100% chance that he was going to come in and finish him. Now, mind you, this is a guy who's sitting in the corner. You almost finished him. They were this close to stopping the fight. You know you got him on the ropes, and what do? You just charge in the pocket, and you get clipped, and you get put to sleep. And now all of a sudden you went from like I had a 100% chance of winning this fight to what the fuck just happened 15 seconds later. So that's a hard pill to swallow. You go in there and you fight someone like Khabib where he just owns you for 3 rounds like he did with Barboza and stuff like that, then I could see like just walking away from it. I'm walking away from it. I'm accepting my defeat. But when you lose like Chandler lost, it's very, especially for a guy like him, it's a very hard pill to swallow. So even though this isn't a title fight, this is a title eliminator fight. I think Chandler knows that maybe not the next guy in line, but I think Chandler knows like he needs this fight at 38 years old. Like you can't lose another fight and expect to have like a title shot anytime soon. He's been on the sideline for a while, waiting for McGregor, waiting for that pink panty night, and it never came. And he's just kept getting older and older and older and training and older. Like, when do you come back? So now here he is. He's back. We haven't seen him in a while, and he claims that he's got this restored faith in his game. He's not going to be chaotic. He's not going to charge the pocket. He's going to be a little bit more calculated. Now, it all sounds good in hindsight, but the fact of the matter is once instinct kicks in a fight, I don't know if any of you guys out there train, but if you have trained and you have all these scenarios that you can do to somebody, and then a street fight breaks out and your adrenaline starts going, a lot of times all that goes out the window. You're just going to look to hurt this guy. And that happens a lot. And sometimes in the midst of chaos, in the midst of a storm, your game plan goes out the window. And that's what happens with Chandler. Chandler, when he is in the midst of chaos, he kind of forgets what he's supposed to do. And he just, let's go raise hell and collect the bonus check. He claims he's over that now. So I'm curious to see if he is, because if he is, then I got a really, really good vibe of him winning this fight. Oliveira, on the other hand, this is a guy who just naturally is a finisher. He's got great striking. He's sharp. Very good grappling. Obviously, we know that he's an opportunistic grappler. You leave one limb open for a split second, he's going to grab it. He's going to take it home with him. Your neck, your arm, anything. So you got to be very, very mindful when you fight him. But I do think that Chandler has the tools to beat him. I think he's got the power in his hands to beat him. I think he's got the wrestling credentials to be top heavy on top of him and cause a lot of damage with elbows and just being a smashing machine, being a miniature version of Mark Kerr. That's what basically he has to be in this fight. He has to be a miniature version of a primed Mark Kerr, where he's in there, he's throwing some hands, he could change the level, watch his neck so he doesn't get guillotined, maybe get some top control, land some heavy shots, take his legs out a little bit. You got to take his legs out a little bit. You got to make him, feel that pressure. And maybe he can break him. Maybe he can bring the old Chucky Olives back and break him. But if he comes in with a head of chaos, he rocks him and he goes in and he charges the pocket, he could very well get submitted and get knocked out again. So it's very good fight. Very good fight. Wish it was this is definitely a main event on another card for sure. So I'm gonna go Chandler here. I'm gonna say Chandler gets his redemption here. I want to say Chandler by finish, and I'm going to. I'm gonna say Michael Chandler by finish. Next one, Bo Nickal and Paul Craig. This is ridiculous at this point. I mean, when are they going to give this guy somebody? I mean, I understand you're touting these guys and you have these certain guys in your stable that you want to showcase and stuff like that. But come on, Paul Craig. You're giving him Paul Craig. I mean, Bo Nickal is one of the most decorated wrestlers, collegiate wrestlers that we've seen. And you're giving him a guy that doesn't have wrestling. You're giving him a guy that, is super slick with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And you're giving him a guy that has zero striking. So that you're basically giving him the best matchup you possibly can give him. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, but look what Gordon Ryan did to Bo Nickal. What did Gordon Ryan do to Bo Nickal? Gordon Ryan, number one, is the number one no-gi grappler in the world who almost went all 15 minutes with Bo Nickal. Bo Nickal almost went all 15 minutes with him, and then he got caught in a triangle with like 30 seconds left. So you're gonna compare Gordon Ryan to Paul Craig? Not to mention there was no punches, no elbows. There was nothing involved in that. It was straight grappling, and he still went almost 15 minutes with him. I mean, come on. So this is a situation where I don't think at all Bo Nickal's going to be afraid to grapple with him. I wouldn't doubt at all if Bo Nickal takes him down and just smashes him from top position. Does Paul Craig have a window to possibly submit him? Yeah, he does. He's got those Yankee legs where he throws them up, and you could be beating him from pillar to post, and you think the fight's going to end, and all of a sudden he launches up a triangle or grabs an arm. So absolutely he can. But after a while, when you start realizing, like, this is Paul Craig's game, like anytime you fight Paul Craig, keep it on the feet, and if he goes to the ground, you better watch your limbs. Like, that's the pattern with him. You kind of know him now, right? I think Bo Nickal's smart enough to understand, like, that's the one place you don't want to be. You don't want to be in a scramble with him, and you don't want his hips loose. So in wrestling, I mean, weight distribution, top control, that's what it is. It's position before submission. So he's going to make sure he has position on him if he gets to this ground. There's no way Paul Craig's getting his legs loose. So I'm going to go Bo Nickal inside the distance. Before we go to the next one, we're going to bring Mackenzie in for her pick of the week.
Old man Weidman is back in the Big Apple and looking to scoop up a win. Picking opposition for him these days isn't easy. However, he is fighting Eric Anders, who basically throws one punch around. Weidman's wrestling pedigree should stop any of Anders' offense, and this should honestly be a pretty boring affair. However, at home in New York, I think the judges are going to be starving to give the crowd something to cheer about. So give me Chris Weidman at home as a dog at plus 105.
Araujo versus Silva. Look, I like this fight. I think it's a good fight, but you're looking at a girl who 37 years old in Araujo, 30 years old for Silva. Araujo has a style, a young girl style, right? Speed, explosion. She tries to get in and out of the pocket really quick. And after a while, when you're 37, 38 years old, that doesn't get any faster. You know, your power is the last thing to go, always. That's why when you deal with guys my size and heavyweight, we could fight for a lot longer. We could fight well into our 40s for the mere fact that we have we have power, and power is the last thing to go. When you're a smaller framed guy, somebody like Anthony, a smaller framed guy, his career would have to end 35, 36, 37 years old, just for the mere fact that they don't have power, but they have speed. And speed is the first thing to go. So it's kind of a slippery slope, especially when you're dealing with 125ers in someone like Viviane Araujo. It's just not the proper style for her to maintain for longevity. You got a girl in Corinne Silva, 30 years old, a slippery grappler, good striking. I just think she's going to get in the pocket early. She's going to get out in first, out last. You know, so it could be a competitive fight, but I think Silva optically is going to run away with this one. So I'll go Corinne Silva by decision. Then the last one we're going to break down, I'm going to get off the Ruffy fight just for the mere fact that I don't think you need me for fucking the Ruffy fight. All right. We're going to do this one. We're going to do Chris Weidman and Eric Anders. All right. I know you guys think I'm probably, you know, I'm all pro New York just because that's where me and him are from. I'm not a Weidman fan. I never was a Weidman fan. I think Weidman is extremely overrated. I've been watching Weidman back in Ring of Combat, back when him and back when he was like the guy in Ring of Combat. And when he came to the UFC, you know, he had a good run. But a lot of his successes, a lot of his big time successes, he's been fortunate. You know, he's been fortunate. So listen, he went on his run. You know, he went on his run. Back in the day when he was in Ring of Combat, it was him and Uriah Hall. They were the guys. And I remember when Uriah Hall was they were lobbying for that fight. Like, they thought that Uriah Hall was going to smash Weidman, and Weidman ended up winning that fight. He ends up coming to the UFC. He goes on a very good win streak. Beats Vitor Belfort, beats Lyoto Machida. The thing with Anderson Silva, the thing with the Anderson Silva fight, and that's really where he got his notoriety. The first fight he lost. The first fight he won because Anderson Silva was showboating. He was literally showboating. Had his hands down. He was going like this, and he caught him. Now, okay, he caught him, but he didn't outwork Anderson Silva. He didn't outfight Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva was showboating, and he caught him on the chin with a shot. Great. Congratulations. You didn't really beat him. You didn't really outwork him. He did something really dumb, almost like Michel Pieta would do. Did something really dumb, and it worked out in your favor. Then they have the rematch, and he beats him again. So it shows on his record, oh, my God, he beat him twice. He beat him off a leg injury. The guy broke his leg. But he will lean on that and lean on that and lean on that. Then he had a couple other wins, and then this is where the demise started coming. Then he loses. He gets knocked out by Luke Rockhold. He gets knocked out by Yoel Romero. He gets knocked out by Gregor Mousasi. He beats Kelvin Gastelum. He gets knocked out by Souza. He gets knocked out by Reyes. He comes back. He beats Akhmedov. He gets the same leg injury that he got against Silva, Karma, against Uriah Hall. Then he comes and he loses the decision to Brad Tavares. Then he comes back in his last fight. He fights Bruno Silva, and he wins on a technicality with 4 eye pokes. 4 eye pokes in one fight. He doesn't get a point deducted from him. And then the final flurry that put Bruno Silva out was 2 eye pokes. 2 punches, 2 eye pokes, puts him down, and they don't even call a no contest. They call it a knockout for Weidman. So it's like he's always been on the right side of these lucky situations. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I never really bought into him. I thought he was good. Thought he was a good wrestler. Thought he was a good striker. I thought, he was a good fighter. I just never looked at him like Chris Weidman is like some champion. So here they go. They're bringing him back to New York in front of his people. And what is he going to do if he wins the fight? He's going to get on the microphone and he's going to say, his little patriotic speech and talk about how he's, in his 40s and he's going to make a run at the title, which is never going to happen. And it's just so. But what are they going to do? They're giving him another favor now. Now they're giving him Eric Anders. Eric Anders is as low volume as a bald woman's hair. He's 0 volume. This guy's got 0 volume. He does nothing. Good athlete, played for Alabama, but that doesn't translate into fighting. I don't give a shit who you are. I don't care what sport you played. That doesn't translate into fighting. But there's times where Eric Anders is in there where he throws like 1 punch around, like it's ridiculous. Can he try to wrestle like he does, like in his last fight? Sure. Is it going to work against Weidman? Doubtful. Weidman's a decorated wrestler. Weidman's a really good wrestler. So they're giving Weidman the perfect opportunity here to not take a lot of damage against a guy who's super low volume, a guy who he can probably out-wrestle, a guy who he can lobby on the kid. This is going to be probably the most boring fight on the card. It's probably going to be the most boring fight on the card. And Weidman will probably win just because Eric Anders will do nothing to help his cause. He's going to do nothing to help his cause. Like from a DraftKings perspective, you just stay away from this fight. But he won't do nothing to help his cause. So being at home, being in New York, a stupid, sloppy, boring fight, of course they're going to give it to Weidman. So this is just going to be another, feeder for Weidman to win. Then we got to hear his nonsense talking about how he plans on making a run for the title. So overall, a good card, fun card. I'm super psyched for this weekend. And I'm not even psyched about the Tyson fight, even though I'm doing a huge breakdown on that if you want to hear about it. I'm interested to see what happens. I'm interested in seeing, honestly, if this thing is fixed or not. And you never hear me call that. I talk down. I literally talk. I scream at people for talking about fixes. Don't talk about the fix. What the hell? Why are you doing this if you fix it? But this is a situation where, honestly, I got to think about the health of a 60-year-old man. You got to think about what they're doing in this fight. Now, if you don't follow, I talk about all this on the pod. Normal regulations in boxing, the size of the gloves, the rounds, what they're doing in between rounds. I talk about all the rules and what makes it different from an actual sanctioned match. You got 2-minute rounds. They're wearing sparring gloves. Like, there's a lot involved in this fight that a lot of people don't know about. So I'm going to break all that down. But the undercard of this actual card is good. Like, the undercard, if you want to see some good boxing, the undercard is really good. So I'll be breaking those down too. So, like I said, once again, you're getting UFC 309, you're getting the Friday night fights, and you're getting football, all one price. MadLabMMA.com. Come check us out, and I will talk to you later.